Okay, everybody, my clock shows 10:10, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Basecamp Manager Training. My name is Kristin Harrell. I am the current District Director for District 115. I am also Vice President of Education for Henderson Toasters, and I am the future President of Bon Appetit Toastmasters and Secretary of Morelli House Toastmasters. I've been a Basecamp manager pretty much since Pathways rolled out. And I'm still learning new things. I think we all are. And as soon as we figure it all out, TI decides to change Basecamp and we get to start all over again. I want to remind you that this session is being recorded and will be posted on a public website. So if you do not want your face shown, feel free to turn off your camera. Also, we are going to be going through the TI website. It does work with some pop-ups, and I can't always see what you guys are seeing. So if at any time I am talking about a screen and you're not seeing what I'm talking about, please let me know so that I can change your view and make sure that you see what you need to see. First of all, the main Basecamp manager is the Vice President of Education. The President and Secretary are the backup Basecamp managers. So only people in those three roles will have access to what I'm showing you today. If you're the president or the secretary, it's important to know how to use Basecamp, but I implore you to please coordinate with your vice president of education before you approve anyone's levels or enter any educationals, because sometimes people will submit things that they aren't really done with. And the vice president of education would know that, whereas the president and secretary might not. You do not want to get yourself in a situation as president or secretary where you have approved somebody for something they did not finish and have to go back and deal with that situation. So please make sure that your vice president of education is always the one leading this charge. Anthony will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions and you put them in there, we will get to those at some point and discuss them. But I want to get started right away. So I am going to share screen and take you straight to, hopefully the screen is very familiar to all of you. We are at toastmasters.org and I have already logged in. I call this up here where it says welcome and your name. I call this the magic portal. This is your portal to pretty much everything related to you and related to Pathways. So I always go in through there. Yes, you can go to Pathways and access everything that way as well. But to me, this is the shortcut and keeps everything nice and concise. So I always enter through here. Before I go in as Basecamp manager, I'm going to go in as a member because I need to do a couple things in order to be able to show you what Basecamp managers can do. So I am going to log into my home club. If you have multiple clubs, they'll be in a drop down. But I'm going to log in under my home club and click go. As a member, you can go right here. This is your Basecamp landing page. Go to your paths and learning. This is where it will keep all of your paths and everything that you're working on. And I am going to go into my engaging humor level 5 and submit it so that when we log in as Basecamp manager, there will be something for us to approve. So as you can see, I've already completed level 5, but I have not, see where it says not activated down here under completion. I haven't sent it to my Basecamp manager for completion yet, but I'm going to go ahead and do that right now so that you guys can see. I'm going to hit mark complete. And now as a member, you see it says pending completion approval. That's because this has now been sent to my Basecamp managers for approval. I'm going to go back home. And then if we go back to our Toastmaster profile, now I'm going to log in again, the same way, except I'm going to click log in as Basecamp manager. If you are a Basecamp manager, you will have that option. If you're not, you will not. So I am now going to log in as Basecamp manager.
Kristin,
Yes, sir.
somebody's asking if you can go just a little bit slower so that they can take more notes.
Absolutely. And again, this will also be recorded, so you can go back and watch it as well. Okay. So as Basecamp manager, I've logged in. I'll show you that one more time. Come on, hover. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna go back to the start page and I'll go back here. All right. You are at your profile, which you got to just by clicking on welcome and your name. This first tile at the upper left is where you access Basecamp. If you just click go, it's going to take you as a member. If you want to log in as the Basecamp manager, you need to click log in as Basecamp manager and then click go. Now, as the Basecamp manager, the main thing that you're going to be doing is approving level requests, and that will be found under pending requests right here. All you have to do is click on that tile. Now you'll see, because I went in and submitted level 5, it's telling you Kristin Harrell has submitted for level 5 engaging humor. And I have the option over here of a green check for yes, I'm approving it, or a red X for no. The only reason you would click no is if somebody submitted something they hadn't completed. And trust me, it does happen. We've had people who thought that the only thing you have to do for a level 1 is to do your icebreaker, and that's it. So after they finished icebreaker, they skipped right down to level completion and they submitted it. As the Vice President of Education, that person should be tracking what projects people have done and would know that they have not done all the projects. And in that case, they would decline that. However, I have done all of that, so I am going to click check. You can put comments in here. I'm just going to put good job. Normally with other members, I put something else in there, but for myself, I'm just going to click good job. And now you see that clears. So now I have no other pending requests that need to be approved. The other thing as Basecamp manager that you can do. Wow, this is being slow today.
Excuse me, you can't do it for yourself, can you?
Absolutely, you can. And this is one downside of Basecamp. You can approve your own educationals in Basecamp. What you cannot do is then submit them in Club Central. So the other side of this would be once you've approved someone's level, you would go into Club Central, and I'll show you that in a minute, but you would go into Club Central and then submit their educational there. Now, as a Basecamp manager, I do not have access to do that in Club Central. I would then have to ask somebody else, my president or my secretary, someone else to go and submit that in Club Central for me. And I'll show you how I do that in just a second. So I want to, right now I'm staying in Basecamp Manager. Top right, there's a search box. If you start typing the name of one of your members, they will pop up. So this is Michelle, and I'm going to click on her. I am now in Michelle's Basecamp as if I was Michelle. So I can see all of Michelle's stuff. And the cool thing about this is, yes, there's a lot of reports, and I'll show you where to find them. However, sometimes it doesn't give you all the information that you need on what your members are doing. So this way I can actually log in as her. So I can go up here at the top, I can look at her Basecamp profile, which is, you know, interesting. And I can see if she's put in any roles that she did. So that might be important in, for instance, one of the levels, you have to be an evaluator, a speech evaluator. In one of them, I think you have to be Toastmaster. So it's good if your members have been logging this information. If not, you can always go back to your agendas and look at it, but this is a nice place for them to keep that information if they're doing that.
So
But
that's done individually by the person?
Yes. And I can show you how to do that. Again, that's not a Basecamp manager function. That's a member function, but if we have time, I'll show you that as well. But the one thing I can do that's most important is I can go over here to her paths and learning. And I can see all of the things that she's signed up for. I can open her curriculum just like I do my own. I mean, it's basically the same as if I was in my own, but I'm in somebody else's. The important thing for this is people get stuck. They say, I don't understand. I finished this and nothing happened. It didn't move me to the next level. It didn't show me complete. It didn't, you know, whatever their issue is with their level, you can physically go in and see what the deal is. So I see she's 100% on 1 and 2. She's 50% on 3. So if she had told me, but I finished 3, I don't understand what's going on, I could go in here and I could see, oh, well, Michelle, it says that you need 2 electives. You've only completed 1 of them. And that way I can see exactly what's going on. I can even view the details. So if she says, no, but I swear I did 2, I could go in here and I could look and I can see that she's clicked on Know Your Sense of Humor because it's blue and it says in progress. If you notice right next to it, it says in progress. That means she's clicked on it, she's activated it, but she hasn't finished it. Focus on the positive. She clicked on that, so that says in progress. And then this is the one she completed. So I can actually drill all the way down. Somebody is unmuted. Could you please mute? Because I'm getting some feedback. Thank you. So I can actually go in here and view all of her details if I want and find out exactly what's going on. So I can see when she activated it. When was the last time she accessed? How much she's done on it. So I have all that information. And that is super helpful, especially because a lot of people just get stuck somewhere and they just need a little bit of a push or help figuring out what they're doing wrong or what they missed. And this gives you access to literally go in and be them for a minute and really look at it and say, okay, I see where you went wrong. I see that you didn't finish this. And that gives you the opportunity to really help them.
Kristin, one other thing that a lot of people forget to do or don't know that they have to do, in order to complete out a level, after your speech, you have to go back in and do the completion evaluation on the pathways track on that. So you might want to show them or explain that to them. Because that's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go back in as a member in a minute, and I'm going to show them some other things that their members can do, because that will help them be able to facilitate their members as well. But while we're in Basecamp, the other thing I wanted to show you, and these are useful if you're, especially if you're a new vice president of education and your previous vice president of education did not keep up with what everybody's doing, you can go back and reconcile everybody's path by using the reports. So we are, again, are in Basecamp Manager, just like when we originally logged in, we're at that landing page. And up here across the top, you can go to reports. And you can pick, come on, you can pick standard reports, custom reports, or dashboards. I don't have any custom reports set up right now, so I'm going to go to standard reports. So there's pending requests, training status summary. And they've changed all of these. I don't like the way this one's set up. So I'm going to actually go to my dashboard. Come on. Come on. And sometimes you get the spinning wheel of death. Okay. So I went to the dashboard, and I think this is what most people who've been Basecamp managers before are familiar with. It was called something else before. So this is where you can get basically a picture of what's going on with your club. The one I like is, it's path progress. No matter what you go into in the dashboard, you need to go over to the right in the options and click refresh. And unfortunately that, well, actually it's a little quicker today. No, some of them are still spinning. Sometimes this takes a little while to refresh, but this will give you all the information about what's going on in your club. And I think what most people don't realize, right now, this just looks like generic information on status of all paths. But if you hover in the upper right-hand corner of this, if you see this drop down shows up, and I wish they would leave that drop down on all the time because most people don't realize it's there. So if you click on that drop down, you can view the details, or you can even export this to Excel. So if you're trying to reconcile what your club's done, if you're a new VP of Ed, maybe export this to Excel and sort it. And then that way you can figure out exactly where everybody is. But if you click on view details, and this is a pop-up, so can you guys see it? Did you see it pop up? No? Okay, then I'm gonna have to do a new share. Just a sec. I want you guys to see this. So I'm gonna have to, I need to open the Zoom back up so I can new share for you guys. All right, new share. And here we go. All right. So when you, hopefully now you're seeing it. Do you see all the details? Okay. So when you click on, you hover over the upper right-hand corner and you click on the drop-down, click view details, then you get the breakdown of what looked like just a pretty graph. Because it used to be in the old Basecamp, all we got was the graph and it was not helpful information. But now you actually get all the details related to that information. So you can see all of your members now, and you can see what path are they in? What have they completed? When did they complete it? So it's got all of this information, or what percentage are they at on which things. So every single thing in the dashboard has all of this information related to it. And again, you can choose to export that to Excel. So if you are a brand new VP of Ed, hopefully your previous VP of Ed is going to hand you over some spreadsheet that has a beautiful tracking of what everybody's done. But given that that's not always the likelihood, you can go in as Basecamp manager, go to the reports dashboard, and then click on all of the different reports that they offer and export them to Excel. I think that would be my starting place as a VP of Ed so that I could see where everyone is. Now I am going to new share and go back to our previous screen so that I can keep going with that. All right, so we are back to the main dashboard. And you see it's still refreshing. This takes a long time to refresh, but I did want to show you that each one of these different boxes, paths registered, not yet started. That means people have chosen paths and they haven't actually started anything on them. Again, there's a drop down, view details, export to Excel. So you can do that for every single one of these. And I suggest, I mean, there's only 4 of them, so it's not a lot. I suggest that you start there. So go again to reports, dashboards, refresh the information, and then go to each of the reports and export them to Excel. That will give you a really good idea of where everybody is. So those are really the most important parts of Basecamp Manager as far as I'm concerned. But there's some other things that you need as Basecamp Manager to be able to facilitate your members. And I know there's been some questions on that. So I am going to go back right now. I'm going to visit the Pathway Start page again, and I'm going to go back as a member. One piece of information that you also need to know before we go here is that if you have members who are in multiple clubs and they have signed in a different club than yours, you will not have access to their information. So remember how I put Michelle's name in the search box? If Michelle was in multiple clubs and she had signed into a different club, her name would not show up there. So sometimes people are like, I have missing members, they're not there. Okay, they're not there because they logged into a different club. And if they need you to see their information, or if you need to see their information, all they need to do is go in here and sign in under your club. And see how it asks me, it asks if I want to change my home club selection. If I said continue, then it would change it. And then the VP of Ed for that club would now be able to see my information. As it is, only the VP of Ed of my home club, Henderson Toasters, is able to see my information. So just be aware of that. If you think you have missing members sometimes, that might be the reason. Right. I am now going to log back in as a member because there's a couple things I want to show you so that you can help facilitate your members. Right. As a member, there's a few things that I can do that may affect you as a Basecamp manager. One of them is under my Paths and Learning. So all I did was log in and click on Paths and Learning. Over here, there's these 3 dots on the right-hand side. These are options. One of the things that is an option here is add external training. The purpose of external training is, well, there's several purposes. One is I am in a job where sometimes I have to give presentations. And I would like to count one of these presentations for one of my paths because it is something that relates to my level 3, something I'm doing in level 3. There's no way that my vice president of education would know that I did that presentation. So add external training is a way for me to let my Basecamp manager know that I want to do something that is outside of my club. Okay, somebody needs to mute. I'm getting feedback.
Wait, stop. 4,000?
Okay, I'm getting little kids talking.
Helen, can you mute? There you go.
Thank you. All right. So again, I was in Paths and Learning. I just clicked on the 3 dots and chose Add External Training. Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to give a description of what I'm trying to do. And I'm just going to make something up because we're just doing this for presentation hour. Obviously, you would want to be more specific than this. But for our purposes right now, I'm just going to put something in quick. Who will I present to? All right, when am I going to do it? I'm doing it on the 21st. And it's only a 1-day thing, so I'm doing, what path is it going to? Let's count it for team collaboration. And it's going to be whatever. Oh, visual aids, because we're doing a PowerPoint. And I'm going to do it. Now here's a choice in a club other than my home club. You would use this if I am going to give my level 3 to Henderson Toasters. However, I am completing it by doing a presentation at Bon Appetit Toastmasters. My VP of Ed at Henderson Toasters would not know that I'm doing a project at Bon Appetit Toastmasters. So I would choose in a club other than my home club. This one is I'm doing something at work, so I'm going to choose outside of Toastmasters. And if there was any attachments to go with this, for instance, if I had any kind of write-up on this from my boss, something like that, I could do that. I could select a file, I could go out and I could find it and put it on there. I don't have that, so I'm just going to click submit. Now, as a Basecamp manager, you will get a request to approve this outside training. Just like if I completed a level, it's in the same section. It's under pending approvals. So if we should have time, I'll go back and show you it's there now. But that is just another thing that members can do to help facilitate working with their Basecamp manager. Because there was a lot of, with the past, and you had your books in the legacy program. If I was going to do a project somewhere else, I'd just take my book with me and I would get that VP of Ed to sign off on it. We don't have that anymore. So this is basically what fills that void. This is how you communicate completing projects that are outside of your home club. So that is, yes.
Z, how did you get to adding external training?
So again, you're logged in as yourself and you're under your paths in learning. Up at the top right corner, there's 3 dots. And if you click on the 3 dots, your first choice is add external training. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Kristin, when you're actually putting all the information in about the presentation you were giving to the engineers, could you also attach the PowerPoint there?
Yes,
You had a
absolutely.
PowerPoint?
Yes, absolutely. I would attach anything that you have that helps prove that you were truly doing this project.
Cool.
Anything that would facilitate your Basecamp manager understanding what you're doing and making sure that it really does apply. You know, because if I was doing a PowerPoint presentation and I wanted to apply it to create a podcast, it has nothing to do with podcast. So my Basecamp manager would need to know that and, you know, have that conversation with me. This really doesn't go together. How do you see this fitting together? So that type of situation. So anything that would facilitate them understanding what you're doing and being able to sign off on it and feel comfortable that you did the project is what you would put there.
Kristin?
Yes,
in
ma'am.
the legacy program, somebody would take their evaluation book with
Yes.
them. So then you as a member presenting at another club, would you need to take your evaluation documents, somehow send them to your VPE for that project when it was completed?
Yeah.
Have a Toastmaster evaluate it?
So yeah, in this Pathways Basecamp scenario, there is no specific requirement for evaluation in that format. However, as Toastmasters, it should be our goal to always learn and grow. So I would suggest if you're doing a project that is outside of Toastmasters, obviously if it's just another Toastmaster club, you will have an evaluation form, but give the form to someone. If you're lucky, there's another Toastmaster in the room. I have several Toastmasters at my work, so there's pretty much always a Toastmaster in the room if I'm doing something at work. But if you don't, give it to somebody that you trust to give you some honest feedback, because the Pathways evaluation form is fairly specific on how to evaluate, and pretty much anybody should be able to follow that. So as a Toastmaster, I would suggest that you always request an evaluation, even if you're not doing it for Toastmasters.
Thank you.
The other thing I want to show you is, as a member, when you're in your Basecamp profile, one of your options up here across the top is feedback. So one thing that you can do as a member is request additional feedback. For instance, if you got an evaluation at a club meeting and the person was just glowing and you know that they were probably not being honest with you, but this is something that you're working on and you really want feedback, and there's somebody you know who does great evaluations and you value their opinion and you want to request additional feedback, you can go to this feedback tab and you can request feedback. So I can choose, So I can choose, hello, it would help if I typed right. So I can add a user that I want to ask for feedback. I'm not going to actually do that right now because I don't want to do that. But you can choose to request feedback. Please let me know. Anyway, I'm not going to type this out right now. It would take us way too long. But you can request feedback from people and you can post it. You can send it to a specific person. You can ask for anonymous feedback. There's a lot of things you can do in here that we don't have time because this is not really a Basecamp manager thing, but I just wanted to show you guys that this is an option that you can do. You can also provide feedback. And there's tutorials here on how to do that. So if somebody did something amazing and they didn't necessarily ask for your feedback, but you really wanted to give it to them, you can also do that in this feedback section right here. I'm going to go home real quick because the other way that you can get to that, if you're at your Basecamp landing page, you've just logged in and you're right here, you can go to my feedback right here, and that gets you to exactly the same place. The other thing that you can do from that same spot, so I'm going to go back, is badges. So under badges, everything that you've done as far as your levels will all be here. But people can also award you badges. So for instance, there's a badge right here called Courageous. So somebody's awarded me the Courageous badge. So all of that is saved there. And there's like 10 different ways to get there, but I always go home because I find that the easiest way to navigate to anything. Under feedback as well, you can, I can't see everything because you guys, okay. Under feedback, the 3 dots will also take you to all of your feedback requests. I don't have any right now. So if somebody has requested feedback from you and maybe you didn't get to it right away and now you don't have the email, you don't know how to get to it, you can always go to feedback requests and any feedback anybody's requested from you will live there. The other option that you have is My Documents. This is where you would save any evaluations that you want to save. So especially in the Zoom environment, a lot of our evaluations came to us as PDFs and we're already on our computer anyway. So if you go over here to My Documents and say that I had a level 1 evaluation, I click on level 1s, I click on Add File, and then I can just select the file, go out to my computer, wherever it is, and add it. And then that way, all of your evaluations are saved right here. Even if you get an evaluation on paper, you can scan it in and then save it here. That way you always have them in case you need to go back to them for any reason. This is also a great place because your Basecamp manager, if for some reason they didn't see your speech or they forgot to log that you did something and they come back and question it, then this is a place where they could go to find out if you had it. You could say, oh, all my stuff is saved, and they could go look at it. So when you get the chance, check out your documents. And if you have any evaluations that you've saved, maybe put them in there. That's just a great place to save them. All right, I want to make sure we leave time for questions. We have till 11, right, Anthony? Okay.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Now, the best thing about Basecamp is the tutorials because there are some really quick and awesome tutorials in here about pretty much everything. So anything that you want to know, you can go to the tutorials and find something. So if, for instance, something was missed in training or there are updates and you want to find them, you can just go in here, you can browse under the topics and you can find little tutorials. Most of them are pretty short. So they're things you can just watch real quick to get updated on what's going on. We had a question that I wanted to make sure that we got to. Anthony, can you refresh me on the questions in the chat?
So right now there's a question about free toast host being synced with pathways and pulls in the roles.
Yeah.
And when you ask for a specific feedback from a specific person, do they have to be logged into the club you're logged into?
Okay.
And someone brings a portable scanner to their meetings and scan in written evaluations, or they can use an app on their cell phone.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's a lot of scanning apps on the cell phone where you can just take a picture of something and it'll turn it into a PDF. So that's an awesome way. And there's some little tiny portable scanners that are pretty cool. There was another question though, and I'm trying to remember. It was further back.
Okay.
So is it true that free toast host syncs in with pathways with your projects, and if you've done, from the agenda, you've been a Toastmaster and evaluator? Is that true?
No, it doesn't actually sync. They're all listed there. And I suggest, and I can show you if you want, but it doesn't actually talk to pathways. Oh, I know what it was. It was about putting them onto Club Central. I'm good. I was going to show them how I do that. All right. You have finished a level. For instance, I'm going back now to my curriculum, my level 5. Now remember before it said pending approval, and then we went in and we approved it. So now it says completed. And I have the option to view the certificate. So I open the certificate, I PDF it, and then I email that to whichever club vice president of education that I am giving that level to. As Basecamp managers, I caution you to not assume that people in multiple clubs are giving you the level just because they completed it under your club, because that might not be the case. And I have had several people in one of the Pathways groups on Facebook that I'm a member of have issues because their vice president of education gave the award to their club, and that was not the club that was promised the award. So if you have members in multiple clubs, please make sure when you approve their level that they want to give that level to your club before you go over to Club Central and enter it, because that is not something that you can undo once it's done. And that could create lots of problems. I also want to make sure that you're aware that in the Distinguished Club program, a member can only give you a specific level one time, even if they're from different paths. So what I mean by that is I have given Henderson Toasters a level 1 in engaging humor. I also completed level 1 in team collaboration. Even though they're different paths, I cannot also award that to Henderson Toasters. I have to award that to a different club. So if you have members, that it's just one of the rules in the DCP. I do not know why, but it is a rule.
Make sure you know that's per year.
Yes.
Toastmaster year.
Per Toastmaster year, of course. Well, the Distinguished Club program runs on a Toastmaster year. So in that Toastmaster year, so what that means is when you're planning out your Distinguished Club program at the beginning of the year and figuring out who is going to complete what in educationals, don't put the same name down for the same level more than once, because that is not going to be possible. Also, what it means is if you are a member and you are only in one club and you're working on simultaneous paths, you might create a situation for yourself where you're completing levels that are not counting for your club's Distinguished Club program. So as a member, that may be something you want to do. However, as a club, it is in your best interest for members to go continuously through a path rather than bouncing back and forth between multiple paths. The only time the multiple paths really makes sense is when there's multiple clubs and you have many clubs that you need to give awards to. And then in that case, you can bounce back and forth. So just know that when you're planning your DCP at the beginning of the year, and not to expect one person to give you the same level more than once.
Kristin?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Mickey, and I noticed that you've completed engaging humor, but it only shows you at 84%. Is it
Yes.
just slow?
Yes.
Okay.
So because in every path, there is also this path completion project. So, and all this is a speech reflecting on your path.
Okay.
So, and that doesn't count for anything in the DCP. So I have now completed all of the 5 levels that count in the DCP and awarded those. However, in order to finish the path and get the path completion certificate from TI, I need to do this final reflect on my path speech. And then once I do that, and I've finished out that, it will open up this complete path as an option. And when I click on that, then it will notify TI that I've completed the path, and TI will send me a path completion certificate. And where that comes in especially is if you are working on a pathways DTM, you have to complete 2 paths, and that means all the way through. So right now, this path is not considered complete as far as TI is concerned, even though all 5 of the levels have been done and awarded. So it's just a little distinction there. And again, it's just one speech that finishes that off. So once I do that, then I will be done with this path. And I can move on to another one. I do run multiple paths at the same time because I do have 3 clubs that I'm trying to give awards to. So it makes sense for me. But that's why, especially as vice presidents of education, those of you who are VPE, those are conversations that you have with your members, and also conversations you have with your executive board when you're strategizing your DCP and how to achieve your goals. So just make sure that you're understanding what the rules are, and also that you're communicating that with your members, especially if you have members who have short attention spans and they want, they get halfway through a path and they want to move on to another one. Just have those conversations with them so that you're aware. All right, Anthony, what other questions? We have 5 minutes. So what
Could I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I have one more speech to get through a level 5 presentation mastery.
Mhm.
And if I let it go until the next Toastmaster year, would I get credit for that whole group of speech, or levels 1 through 5, or do I need to give it before the Toastmaster year is over?
No, so each level is a different educational in TI. So you should have, if you're on level 5, your 1 through 4 should have already been awarded in the DCP. Now,
Okay.
One thing to keep in mind, and again, this is strategy, and some people don't like to play strategy and some people do, it just depends. But if you're at the end of a Toastmaster year, for instance, I just finished level 5. I'm at the end of the Toastmaster year. None of my clubs need a level 5, but in 2 weeks, all of my clubs will need a level 5. So strategy wise, I would wait until July 1st to go into Club Central and put in my level 5, because otherwise, as far as the DCP is concerned, it's wasted. Now, again, if that is something that your club does and strategizes, that's fine. If it's not, that's fine too. It's just something to be aware of if your club has set goals. And I don't care if it's 2 weeks before I get awarded this level, because it makes no difference to me one way or the other. Pathways doesn't lock me out from anything. It doesn't make it so I can't continue on. It doesn't do anything bad to me to wait 2 weeks. That being said, I wouldn't strategize to the point where you save up all of your awards for the whole year and then enter them after July 1st. That's a little bit much as far as I'm concerned. But if it's a matter of 2 weeks and it counts for your club next year, but not this year, it's okay to wait. It's, it's not hurting anybody.
So Kristen,
Yes, ma'am.
so if you can only give one level 1 per Toastmaster year, but can you give 5 different levels to the
Yes.
same club in the same
Yes.
Toastmaster year? Okay.
Absolutely. You can give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Kristen,
Thank you.
those have to be in order. If you finish
Yes.
level 3 before level 2,
Correct.
your level 3 doesn't show up.
Absolutely. So Pathways will let you finish them in whatever order you want, but Club Central will not let you enter them out of order. So
Okay.
if I complete level 3, but I haven't done level 2, then I cannot put in my level 3. So, because they're trying to encourage you, they are building, each one builds on the skills of the previous one. And as a member, it is in your best interest to do them in order. However, Pathways understands that sometimes that doesn't work, and you may have a project that you need to do or something that's going on that absolutely fits in level 3 and doesn't fit in level 2. So it does let you skip around, but I would be careful not to go too far, because again, then you're building up levels that you can't put into the Distinguished Club program. So skipping something because you have something going on that just really, really works is one thing. Skipping it because you just don't feel like doing it and waiting and waiting and waiting and getting, 3 or 4 levels past before you go back is not going to be in your best interest. And it's definitely not going to be in your club's best interest, because they won't be able to be counting those levels in their DCP plan. So
Kristin,
yes.
can you share the Club Central portion of this? Because both,
Yes.
just share that too.
Absolutely. So, okay. So we are at TI, and I have clicked on Leadership Central and Club Central. I'm going to click on the club that I want, and I'm going to click on Submit Education Awards. Then there's a drop down of all of your members. So you choose the member. It will not let you choose yourself. So choose whatever member you want.